to the podcast where two longtime friends and sometimes a guest talk about their favorite games from the perspective of an average player. My name is Andrew Kimball.
And I'm Dylan Wren, and we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
On today's episode, we are joined by one of the hosts of the Gamer Parents Podcast, a weekly podcast discussing video games, marriage, and children. Our guest and his co-host discuss the rewards and challenges of being gamer parents and juggling adulthood responsibilities, all while keeping their passion for gaming alive. Welcome to the show, Kevin. How's it going, man?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. But how are you guys doing?
I can't complain, really. It's been a while since we've gotten to do one of these interviews, so I am excited to get in here and chit chat with a fellow podcaster, a fellow gamer. So
yeah, of course. I always take people up on opportunities to come chat and meet new people and talk video games.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But we're not going to start at video games, unfortunately. We're going to get to know you as a content creator first, figure out, learn a little bit more about what you do, about your show, things like that. And then in the back half of this episode, we will be getting to know you as a gamer, talking about your gaming hobbies and the like. And then we'll wrap it all up with a fun game at the end. So let's go ahead and dive in. What is it that you do? I introduced you with a little blurb at the beginning there, but in your own words, tell us about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I am one half of the Gamer Parents Podcast. The other half is my wife. So it's a little project that we do together. And that kind of makes it interesting. We have, some husband-wife banter, back and forth. I like to tease my wife a lot, like any good husband does.
I'm sure she appreciates that.
Yeah, but I just try to make it entertaining. And we talk a lot about our kids, relationships, a lot of stories about our kids. And then obviously the games that we're playing. And my wife's a gamer too, obviously. Kind of has to be in the Gamer Parents Podcast. And we game a lot together too. So a lot of co-op games. We play a lot of Game Pass. We talk through everything that we're playing. Sometimes we'll rate games. And then we also do a weekly Twitch stream. So we stream together as well, like once a week. This is kind of another side of our content creation. Just something that we put together kind of, after COVID hit and kind of a way for us to keep busy at home. And so that was kind of how the Gamer Parents Podcast was born.
When you're streaming, do you play the games that you're going to talk about on the podcast, or is it like a separate thing that you're doing specifically on stream? Is it like a running series? Is it different every week?
It's just kind of like whatever we feel like playing. And, we'll usually maybe every week or two, like we'll change it up a little bit and play something different. Some games we go back to, and a lot of times it's something new that we pick off of Game Pass, for that week, and then just try something different. But and then we always talk about them on the show too, where we kind of, and plus that way people can see the gameplay and then they can get our opinions on it when much more depth later.
Yeah. Always good to see a fellow Game Pass fan. For me personally, I am a huge fan of Game Pass.
Best deal in gaming.
I love it. Yeah.
So yes, it's crazy to me just how much value is packed in there. I promise I'm not being paid for this. I would love to be Phil Spencer, but there's so many good games that you can find on there. Like, so what have you guys, an example of like what was your most recent stream?
So most recently, us and 19 million other people, we've been playing Palword.
Nice.
The last two streams. Probably have at least a few more in there too. Before we're through that one. Before that was RoboQuest.
Okay.
Which is another game that I really liked. We've played stuff like Overcooked, Grounded. We played a couple of the Halo games. We've done all kinds of stuff from Game Pass. It's a good source of games for us.
Oh yeah. And are you guys usually like, is it somebody kind of piloting and somebody kind of like color commentating, or is it you guys are co-oping together?
No, we're both playing at the same time.
Nice.
I have it configured so it shows like both of our screens at the same time.
Oh,
so
cool.
I can switch between them, and that way, like if I die, I want the camera off me, right? I'll put it on her. Just give people something else to watch, but based on who's doing what. But yeah, no, I mean, there's even been times where we're playing two separate games.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Just kind of showing them both.
For sure. Like the very, like, they've got your variety streamer, and then you've got your like ultra variety streamer that you guys kind of fall into, where it's like double games. So you mentioned you guys kind of got it started around COVID and stuff. Walk us through a little bit more about kind of how you guys came up with it. What were some of those conversations like leading up to like, hey, we want to take this plunge and start streaming, start podcasting, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I know for me, I didn't really start listening to podcasts probably till like 2021. And maybe like 6 months after I started listening to podcasts, I kind of came to my wife with the idea of like, do you want to make our own podcast? Which she wasn't really into podcasts before that either. So it was kind of an idea that really came out of nowhere for us.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember why I started listening to podcasts in the first place or how I stumbled upon one. I don't know. I just figured I'd listen to something on my way to work, I think one day, and instead of music, and kind of fell in love with podcasts, and also was looking for a project that I could do with my wife to like spend more time together, where we're not just talking about the kids, and how work was, and all of the usual stuff that we talk about every single day.
Yeah.
And we've both kind of been lifelong gamers, so it's like, let's just put ourselves in a room for an hour and a half a week and just talk about games and life and everything.
Yeah, we kind of a dedicated like, hey, we're gonna talk about hobbies and stuff during this time for sure. At least an hour and a half every week. We're gonna
It's not even a ton. It's just a little something. One day a week. Where once after the kids go to sleep, we'll just come into our game room and just talk.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is a question we like to ask pretty much anybody that comes on the show, especially podcasters. But for you guys, it might be a little bit more straightforward. How did you come up with the name for your show? And for you, I'm curious if there were any that like were left on the cutting room floor that you remember that you really liked.
Yeah, this is. This also translates to like how I name my characters in game. Like I'm not very creative, and usually I try to skip through that part as fast as I can.
I feel
and so our name is pretty generic. It's what we are, right? It was like we kind of wanted the show to be obviously about gaming, but then also kind of our unique aspect of it is that we're both parents. And so that's kind of, it was like the only answer I think that I had to the question of what we were going to call ourselves. Nothing really else was kind of on the table at the time. And I was kind of fine with that. I was happy with it, and just kind of moved on to the next stages. Cause I kind of get in this thing where like, if I take too long on one step, it's just the whole thing just doesn't happen sometimes.
Right.
I just have to like keep the flow going.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a good point too of, like you guys are hitting a niche that I don't see a lot of people in, where, like there definitely are personalities out there who do like gaming podcasts, gaming content that happen to be parents. And, occasionally maybe you'll hear them talk about like, oh, my kid played this game and is really into this game, or, something like that. But it sounds like you guys are really kind of marrying the, hey, we are parents. Well, yeah, you guys are married, so I guess that works too. But you're marrying sort of that, like, we are gamer parents, but also like we're gonna be talking more like parents that are gamers versus like a gamer that's like, oh yeah, by the way, I have a kid occasionally,
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think around that time, I was also running into like a lot of other gamers who were parents, kind of like us, and some with kids around our ages, and it was like, oh wow, there's still there's a lot of gamers out there that are like us and have kids, and it just kind of seemed like a good fit.
Yeah, especially kind of hitting that point where time is not as easy to come by as it once was, and so it's like,
ain't that the truth?
Whereas the content that kind of caters to that group of gamers versus like, a lot of the gaming content is like, all you do is play video games, and here is, here are the 15 new
sweats.
releases that came out this week. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Also, your name is just like very clear what your show is. You know, that you think about something like Kind of Funny, they're big enough and they have a big enough audience that people figure it out. But like if we started a podcast, Dylan and I, and we named it like Sort of Hilarious, that doesn't tell anybody that we're like a gaming podcast, you know, but your show, it's very obvious. Like I know what I'm getting into with this podcast.
Yeah. I remember when I was checking to see if the name was already used, and I was surprised, like I couldn't really find anything else on it. And I was like, all right, that's it. We're going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, you know, like to me, it seems like it hits that, like, you know, search engine optimization very well of like, you know, somebody's like typing in, like, I'm looking for a podcast that's like about being a gamer and a parent. Boom.
Yeah. Either one.
Here it is. Here it is right here. Number one result. So you mentioned kind of, you know, okay, I started listening to podcasts, got into podcasts and, you know, wanted to make a podcast. What about sort of that process of making this podcast and doing these streams and kind of like the content creation side of things, what surprised you the most about getting into it?
Probably how time consuming things are.
Yeah.
Especially like my wife's the one who's like very detail oriented, and she wants to like edit every square inch of the recording, sometimes multiple times. And so that in addition to the parts that I'm doing for the podcast, it's just like sometimes it's 3 days a week of just working on the podcast, right? And we're busy with the kids all day, and I'm working, and so usually we just have like a couple hours a night to do stuff. So that's like our whole night for close to half the week. So it's just, especially like how some people do it. You can tell some content creators, the ones that like have kids versus the ones that don't have kids, because they just don't have nearly as much time to like put into stuff sometimes. And I feel like that's kind of been I guess not too much of a surprise, but just exactly how much was a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's definitely sort of that, like, you listen to one and you're just like, oh, okay, like, so that, yeah, they're talking into a mic.
So we just
for like
talk,
an hour.
yeah.
It's like, oh, that's easy. Like, I could do that. And then, like, you get to the sort of back half of it and you're like, well, I kind of care how this sounds. And, you know, I stumbled over some words there, so maybe I want to fix that or whatever. And then it's like, oh, man, they probably put, 5-10 hours a week into editing these podcasts that go out, like, who? So.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be a little bit of a sticker shock. And I know streaming too can take, like, I know Andrew and I used to do like streaming for Friendly Neighborhood Gamers. And I think we were both kind of surprised about just like how much effort and time it took to like just get everything set up. And then also like having that dedicated time to sit down every week and like, okay, we're playing this game, and then we're, like trying to turn that into like a YouTube video and, all of that stuff. It's like, whew, this is a lot of effort, a lot of time that we did not expect it to be. Have you guys found something similar with streaming?
Yeah, and how easily things can break on your stream setups and everything. I've had to like kind of quickly patch things together, fix different scenes around and stuff at times. But yeah, I mean, streaming is kind of the best part because it's just we just get to play games, and that's kind of, I wish I could do that all the time. Yeah. So that part's not too bad. But then, yeah, the video editing part's the part that bogs me down the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you say that that's the most difficult thing, or have there been other parts of the process or creating content that you have found to be difficult or challenging?
Probably the most challenging part is like making changes to our stream, because some of that seems pretty technical, and there's all kinds of different settings with an OBS, and I've just had things that like I want to pull off, and like I've seen other people do it, but I just can't seem to figure out how to make it work for like our own setup. And I've made some kind of improvements over the last 2 years since we've been streaming, and so it's come along a little bit, but that's probably been where some of the most struggles or frustrations are, when I'm just trying to figure something out, trying it 10 different ways, and nothing seems to work.
Yeah.
Trying to fit all the pieces together to where the puzzle is complete, as opposed to, there just being that one missing piece where it's not quite right.
Yep.
Yeah. And some people do some crazy stuff with streams, and I'm just trying to do my own version of something. And sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And just like like you said, just figuring out like, okay, well, how did they like, I know because I watched their stream that you can do this, but how
Yes,
did
yeah,
they do
exactly.
this? Like how many, different sources did they need to like pull this off? How did they find all of this? When I set this up, why is it pulling? Why is my desktop audio not coming through? Like all of those kind of like little troubleshooting things. What have been some of the most like rewarding pieces of, we talked about some of the challenges. What have been some of the rewards that you've kind of felt like you've reaped as you've been doing this project?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts is just the people that we meet along the way. That's one thing that like, our kids are 5 and 3. So like basically before we started the podcast, like we were, up to our necks in diapers and just at home a lot with the kids. And like, we didn't really get to hang out with a lot of other people. I felt like we kind of saw some friends drift away during that time. And, when you're kind of more connected and having a little bit of a community and part of other communities and getting to meet other kind of like-minded parent gamers and also some people to play games with, right? Like that's been like the best part is like sometimes hopping in a game with someone that you meet online because of this podcast and the connections that you get to make, right? I've like made some what I feel like are really good friends, some of which I have never met in person yet.
Yeah.
But hopefully at some point we will. But yeah, I think the connections that we make along the way. And not to mention, I'm sure it also helps my wife and I's relationship of just doing this together too. I'm sure that's
right.
that's I'm gonna guarantee that's helped too.
Oh yeah, just having a thing that you do together as a couple. I can imagine. Yeah, like I could definitely see that the argument of like, oh, sometimes that can be frustrating, but like it's also like about communication and about doing something together and spending time together, and it's like all things that would be good. Beneficial to a relationship for sure.
As long as we're not at each other's throats with the game we're playing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What's that one where you play like the two prisoners? What's the
A Way Out?
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't try that one. We wanted to. We had.
You should.
We should.
You should definitely.
Is it going to test us?
It will potentially test you. Yeah, it's a good time. It's a great co-op game, and that seems to be up your alley as far as what you guys like to do. I'm curious, based on what you were just kind of saying about as long as you're not at each other's throats with the games or whatever, have there been any kind of spicy episodes or streams where you two are maybe getting at each other, maybe getting a little competitive or testing each other a little bit?
Yeah, I think one of the earlier memories I have of that is with Overcooked.
Yeah, well,
and oh man, like I feel like that was a game. It was like no matter how good I did or felt like I did, sometimes it just wasn't enough to like get the 3 stars. And it was like at the smallest mistake she would make, like I would be like, oh, why did you have to burn this? Or sometimes it'd get really chaotic and something would catch on fire and the kitchen would start burning down. And
yeah,
it was challenging to kind of keep my cool sometimes, but it was fun. It was a really fun game. And then another time I ran over my wife with a warthog in Halo.
Yep.
It was on accident, I swear.
Sure, we won't tell anybody.
Yeah. But yeah, it's most of the time we do okay. We're both pretty level-headed people, so we don't take it out on each other too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm convinced Overcooked was the whole point of that game. The developers were trying to come up with something that would like destroy lifelong friendships and marriages and everything else. That game is. You started out like levels, like the first set of levels or whatever. Yeah, like, this is a fun time. This is a great kind of casual game to play with friends. And then they just crank it up. And next thing you know, you're screaming at each other.
Like,
and
there's no lettuce on this burger. What are you doing, you idiot? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm the guy getting yelled at because I cannot keep up with Overcooked to save my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It was tough having to keep track of so many things at once. And there was like so little room for error. Like if you wanted to hit the max stars or whatever it was.
Yeah. And now they've got that new one that's either coming or has just hit Game Pass. That's like, I think it's called Plate Up. It's like a roguelike version of Overcooked, where you have I forget exactly how it works, but like you get different stations and stuff as you go through the levels or whatever. It looks ridiculous.
Sounds brutal. What would you tell somebody that wants to start a podcast or wants to start streaming, or what would you tell yourself starting out? Like, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give?
Well, I guess something that I would tell somebody else would be to take your time picking like a topic or a niche and make sure it's something that you're passionate about and that you could talk about given however much time you have, and something that you could keep going for weeks, months, years, however long you see yourself doing it. But also, like, I see people get really finite in their podcasts too, like a podcast for like a very specific game, and then they kind of end up running out of steam, either because maybe they get bored of the game, or there's not enough to talk about, or maybe people stop playing the game. So I mean, we just kind of try to keep it open and have some variety to us. That also helps us keep going, and I imagine that probably helps people continue to tune in. And then as far as what I would go back and kind of give advice to myself, gosh, I don't really know. I don't know about that one. I don't think I would do anything differently.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Which I know is kind of a brave thing to say. But I mean,
you're enjoying it. It's working out.
I think some people make the mistake of like doing things like for the numbers. And I feel like because the more I work on the podcast, the more time I get to spend with my wife, like I'm already winning. Like I'm kind of already ahead. That's the kind of the way I look at it. And like whether we do well or not, like I'm still enjoying myself 100%.
Yeah. Like it sounds like your focus is like, hey, like I'm making this podcast to like get to hang out with a person that I love. So I'm not that worried about how it's doing it. It's like, of course it's doing numbers and you're happy about like, hey, like we're getting more downloads each week or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, it sounds like you've already accomplished, by the time the first episode was published, you'd already accomplished the goal that you were shooting for of spend time with wife. So
yeah, I mean, that's the goal. And I pretty much made that the goal from the beginning. And it's been less about, more downloads and kind of more about just us enjoying hanging out together. And if people want to tune in and join us, then great. And if not, then we're already having fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great mindset to have too, of just like not worrying about, I think sometimes, like you said, people can get very fixated on, numbers and be like, oh, we're failing, we're not doing what we can. And it's like, no, if you're just having fun, like that's the goal in of itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's smart. Your priorities sound like they're in the right place. I started a show with Dylan, and now it's like, we have to pretend to like each other and keep this thing going, and the downloads aren't coming in like we want to. Yeah. No.
Well, thank you for kind of giving us the scoop on sort of that more content oriented side, and what you've been doing as a streamer, what you've been doing as a gamer or as a podcaster. We're going to shift into a conversation about you as a gamer now.
Yes, the good stuff.
Yes. And so the first, the easy, softball starting question. What have you been playing? What have you been playing lately?
Lately, that's you just opened a can of worms. I've been playing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So buckle up.
Okay.
No, probably just in the last week or so, I rolled credits on Forspoken.
Okay.
Which has been out for now just a little bit over a year, so I kind of got a late start on that one. But I really liked it.
Yeah.
I felt like that game got better as it got towards the end. There were a few curveballs in the story, which I liked. I think it did better than people probably like. For me, it was better than how people originally reviewed it. So that's one that I just beat. I'm not going back to it anymore. And last night I beat RoboQuest.
Okay.
For the first time, kind of. And I say that because every once in a while I like to challenge myself by playing a game on hard mode, hard difficulty. And it's one that it didn't seem that hard on that difficulty. And so I just left it at that. And ended up beating the game. And it unlocked Guardian 1 difficulty, which is after hard. And apparently there's Guardian 2 and Guardian 3 and Guardian 4. So I don't feel like I beat the game on hard anymore.
No.
It was more like normal. So now I'm kind of tempted to go try to like harder difficulties and see. And if you're not familiar with RoboQuest, it's like a roguelike first person shooter. Probably maybe takes like an hour to get through, like start to finish in one run. So it's not too terribly long if you're able to make it to the last boss. But it's a lot of fun. Tons of different weapons, and I'm enjoying that one, even though I've already kind of played through the whole story.
Yeah.
Most games, once I finish them, the story or the last boss, I'll usually put it down. This is kind of one of the few where I'm still itching to get back in.
Yeah. A sign of a good game, right?
Oh yeah, and thank you Game Pass, because I probably would have never played it.
Yeah.
Is that one that's multiplayer that you have been playing with your wife, or is that just more something you were into?
It's 2-player co-op.
Nice.
I did play quite a bit with her, and that's been kind of another fun one for us. We've also been playing Palword the last couple of weeks, and
never heard of that.
Yeah. Which that still amazes me. I didn't realize how big that was going to be. I don't know if anyone did.
I don't think they did either.
Yeah.
I read an article about them having to like have a meeting with like an emergency meeting with Epic Games like in the middle of the night because so many people were downloading things or whatever, and it's just like, whew.
Get us more servers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, were you guys Pokemon fans ahead of Palworld and were like looking for that to scratch the itch, or did you get in on just kind of the hype alone?
No, I mean, I call myself a 90s kid, so I grew up on Pokemon cards. I grew up on Pokemon, red, blue, and yellow. I've kind of been on and off of Pokemon kind of like since then. Just recently got back into like Arceus, right? So I've played. I have a history with Pokemon, and that's probably what drawed me to Palworld the most. Because it's so similar.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, everybody knows that. And so and my wife not so much as far as the draw to Pokemon, but she's still liking the game. She likes the survival and building aspect. She likes those kinds of games, so it kind of scratches an itch for her too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
nice.
Any other games you've been playing before we shoot you our next?
Probably one of the last ones here. I have been playing, and I actually have it in front of me because it's such a long title, and I didn't want to forget the title. But it's Naruto X Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections.
Okay. I
don't know if you guys have heard of the Naruto Ultimate Ninja games, but it's from the anime series, and it's kind of like a straight fighter. They also have like a story mode that you can play through. It kind of reminded me, you guys it was not last week, I think it was 2 episodes ago, we're talking about the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot game, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Where like you can kind of play through the main story, and like you almost kind of witness all the main points to the story. I almost felt like if you hadn't watched it in a while, you could just like play through the game and kind of recall all of the important stuff. And so I really just started getting into that after I beat Forspoken, and so that's kind of what I'm playing through now.
Is that like taking both shows' storylines, like Naruto and Boruto, or is it like just one of those?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's just starting with like original Naruto, and obviously I know it goes through Shippuden. I imagine it goes through Boruto also. I know he's like a playable character because you can do like versus modes and stuff, and there's a ridiculous number of characters that you can play.
Yeah.
In this game, and I haven't made it that far. I've only had like 2 sessions with it, but I mean, I'd imagine it probably goes through it.
Cool.
Yeah, Forspoken, you mentioned earlier, is a game that I have on my wish list, and I'm just waiting for like the right time and right price. It's one that I want to play for myself because like you I want to check it out and form my own opinion. The demo didn't super impress me at the time, and so I was like, well, I'm not gonna scoop this up at release, but the premise really interests me, and I did kind of feel like it suffered from the classic gaming industry dogpile, similar to like Gotham Knights and some of these other games where it's like, yeah, it's not great, but it has a big name and a lot of eyes on it, and then somebody gave it a low score, so now it's okay for the rest of us to just jump on that bandwagon, and it just kind of the game itself gets drowned out in all of the like conversation surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what happened with Forspoken, and I feel like it's kind of a weird game for there to be a demo for, because it drastically gets more and more interesting as you unlock way more. You get way more spells kind of as you defeat the main bosses, and you go from just like one element or whatever to 4 like by the end, and your what you have in your toolkit grows vastly as the game goes on. So I could see like if the very beginning of the game is more just getting used to everything, and then you pretty quickly start to get a lot more abilities and spells and things you can do that make the game a lot more interesting from there.
Nice. Well, I'll have to keep that in mind whenever we do a Forspoken episode. So the next question I have for you is kind of taking it back to the beginning. How long have you been into gaming?
So, since as long as I can remember. I was probably like 5 or 6 when I got an original Game Boy. So before Game Boy Color, and they were like massive bricks.
Mm-hmm. Bigger than a Switch almost.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I remember playing like Paperboy or something as like one of my first games. And not too long after that, it was Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Color, and obviously kind of just, I've always been a gamer since that point. And I've had a lot of the consoles, normally between Nintendo and PlayStations. I had the original Xbox, but haven't really had an Xbox console since then. And I spend a lot of my time with PC gaming as well. So I feel like I still get access to a lot of Xbox titles too.
Yeah. Like a lot of them are finding their way onto Game Pass or onto PC and Game Pass on PC for sure.
Yeah.
So what, like you've listed off a bunch of different consoles. Do you have one that you would say is your preferred console? Do you have one that's your favorite console? Like if you had to pick only one that you select?
So like one generation specifically, or
it can be a generation, or it can, like, if that's too much pressure, you can also do just kind of like, definitely like PlayStation, definitely Nintendo, definitely, PC.
If I had to pick one, it'd be Sony, the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I guess I never had a PS1. I think that was probably a little bit before me, and maybe my parents just never got it for me, and I was, didn't know any better. But I've had, since PlayStation 2, I've had every iteration of the PlayStation that's come out.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick a couple of consoles specifically, PlayStation 2, I did a lot of growing in gaming on PlayStation 2. And I feel like going from what I had, an N64 to a PlayStation 2, was huge. And that was a pretty drastic change in gaming. And then the N64 itself was less impressive, but I think the games were just so good for back then. I mean, some of my favorite games as a kid are from that.
Well, kind of piggybacking off of that, potentially, what is your favorite game of all time?
All time? That's tough. I could name a few. I mean, if it's strictly,
you can give us a short list if you need to.
Yeah, a top 5 would probably consist of League of Legends would probably be in there, probably at 5 or 4. Hearthstone would probably be in there as well, although not so much anymore. But I used to play a lot of Hearthstone. Let's see, Final Fantasy X would probably be up there for me. I know a lot of people prefer 7, but 10 was kind of where I fell in love with that franchise. And then probably number 1, so at least by how many hours played, is probably World of Warcraft.
Yeah. Solid.
Yeah, which I've been playing for like on and off for a really long time. So it's like I can't really talk a whole lot about gaming without that coming up.
Yeah.
I also got my wife into it a couple years ago, so we did a little bit of that together.
Cool.
So you still play?
Not currently.
Gotcha.
I usually like each expansion, like we'll jump in for 3 to 6 months. And that'll kind of be our primary go-to game.
Yeah.
And then I just always get burned out at some point, or I want to play other stuff, or
yeah.
that game really revolves around who you're playing with. So if some of your friends disappear or get busy with life and aren't logged in as often, then it's easy to fall away from it too.
Yeah, there definitely comes a point in that game where you kind of hit the ceiling of where you can hit without it becoming like a second job. And
oh yeah, it takes so much time to like get very much done, and you always feel like you're leaving stuff on the table because there's always things that you could be getting that you're not, because you're not putting every second of every day into it. And especially as a parent, it's like, I don't have that time anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I've had the thought creep in about like, maybe I should check out WoW or go back and see what it's like. And I just know that it's just not realistic for me at the state of life I'm in with, with 2 kids and everything else going on. It's like, and unless I was going to be the only game I wanted to play, it just can't happen.
Yeah, that's how it works. Like, if you want to progress anything in that game, it's got to be the only thing that you're playing.
Yeah. Like, it would have been perfect that, like, year of COVID where everything got delayed out of that year. And so, like, nothing came out after, like, Animal Crossing or whatever it was. It would have been perfect to jump in right there.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I actually was playing WoW in 2020, and surprisingly, there was a content drought in WoW too.
Oh,
because the patches were delayed. There was like no new content. There was like nothing to do, and so that was kind of a sucky time for gaming, because there wasn't really a whole lot of games coming out, and the ones that were out weren't really being updated as regularly as they should.
Yeah. So what expansion did you get into WoW on?
So I got in on Burning Crusade.
Okay. Nice.
So the first expansion. So I missed vanilla just barely, unfortunately, but a lot of people say it's pretty good. And then I've played on and off every expansion since.
Nice. Do you have a particular one that you would say, like, this is de facto my favorite expansion?
Probably Wrath of the Lich King, and then followed by Cataclysm, which came after, that's probably the more people will probably disagree with me on the Cataclysm part. That one was less received compared to Wrath of the Lich King, but I like those two.
Because that was definitely when Andrew and I were like at the peak of our World of Warcraft as well, was Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
There's a special place in our hearts for that expansion for sure.
Nice. Yeah.
That WoW is Lich King to me. They're kind of like like 1-to-1, or they're one and the same for me.
I have a Lich King sticker on my car, so
nice.
We're out there representing him.
Nice. So I'm a big believer in that there are things that draw everybody to a game, and it's different things. Like, we all look for different things in a video game that make it a game, particularly for me, or particularly for Andrew, or particularly for Kevin. And so this next question is kind of like, what are the things that you look for? They can be the type of game that it is. It can be, cool trailer. It can be cool character art. It can be, like, I want the story, music, whatever. What are some things that you look for when you're looking to pick out a game that lets you know, like, this is going to be a Kevin game?
I like games that require good communication between, and also require a lot of teamwork.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even just on my favorite games, I loved World of Warcraft raiding. Where you need like everyone performing and everyone bringing everything they got to take down a boss. League of Legends, where you can't win by yourself, very rarely. You're relying on your teammates to do their jobs too. And I like games like that. I seem to kind of be drawn to those. I'm also at the same time, I'm also a sucker for a really good single player story game too. I mean, like the God of War games, Final Fantasy games, those as well. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's definitely a very, like, sort of that social, competitive, cooperative aspect of games, I think is a very, very intoxicating almost. Very enticing thing.
And to me, it's, I don't have to play against other players. To me, it's like, if the game is challenging enough and there's a co-op aspect to it, I love that.
Yeah. Just kind of working together to overcome sort of like an obstacle, reach a goal sort of thing.
So Destiny never got you?
I played it for a little bit, which I thought I would have loved Destiny because I liked first-person shooters. I also liked games that had, dungeons or raids, instances, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
and I felt like that's destiny. Like, I thought I would have loved it. I did play it some, but I didn't really have anyone to play with, and that's probably the main reason I kind of dropped off it or didn't stick with it longer than I would have. Because a good friend of mine that we play WoW together a lot, he does not like first person shooters. Yeah. So they didn't really draw him in like it would have me.
Right.
And like you said, that makes sense. Like a big part of it is not so much. I mean, the game itself is important, clearly, but it's more so like the people you're spending it with. And working with, and so not having somebody to play that game with, it's like, I'm not getting sucked in like I would another game.
So, do you have any games, especially now as we're kind of entering this new year and we just left behind one of the biggest years in video game history as far as game releases? What are some games that you're looking forward to or that are like your most anticipated?
That I'm looking forward to? I'm looking forward to Hades 2.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Hades 1. And I don't know, I'm feeling it's going to be a great game. Let's see, what else am I looking forward to? That's kind of all that comes to mind right now.
There's a lot we don't know right now too.
Yeah, obviously there's some of the stuff that was shown at State of Play that is kind of newly on my radar. I really like BioShock Infinite, so I'm curious on.
Yeah.
Was it Judas? I think.
Yeah.
Is the title for that game. That really looked like classic BioShock to me. So I'd probably jump into that one. So I would say I'm looking forward to that one. Stellar Blade also looked good to me.
Stellar Blade looks another really cool.
There was a lot of good games that they showed there, but that's kind of what's on my radar right now.
Are you on the Final Fantasy VII remake hype train?
I played Final Fantasy VII, like the remake, but I mean, I didn't play. What was it? I forget the
Crisis Core or whatever.
Crisis Core. That's right. Yeah,
they did that. And they had the DLC for 7 remake, the like Yuffie, the Integrate or whatever that came out.
Yeah, I didn't play any of those. I mean, I played through the first one, and that was kind of good enough for me. I may jump back and kind of catch up on things that I missed at some point. But yeah, I'm not going to be like in there on day one for Rebirth.
Yeah. And so you mentioned State of Play too. Are you a big VR person or not VR person? Because I know there was a bunch of like VR stuff in that. That if you like VR, looked really cool, and if you're not big into VR, probably was like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. So
yeah, I think I would like VR. I've never had like a VR console, and I think I would enjoy it, but it's just like I try to be like present around, and like there's no way like I'd be able to do that, and like I'd have my kids getting all tangled up and stuff, and like someone would be getting hit with a controller or something.
That's my exact dilemma.
Yeah, I already know it wouldn't end well, even though I know I would probably enjoy it. So yeah.
Cool. Well, that is pretty much it for questions that we have for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to say or you want to mention before we roll into our closing segment for this episode?
Nope, nothing from me.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and roll into our closing game for this episode. So tonight, I am hosting the game. It's nothing super complicated, but I did have fun kind of with the theme around it.
Okay.
The idea for this game is that I have taken 10 games and pulled their scores from Metacritic, their highest critic scores, and you two have to decide out of the two that I tell you which you think got the higher score.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
So these are critic scores, they're Metacritic scores, and these are all kids' games.
Oh, interesting.
My specialty.
So it might be slanted here in Kevin's favor, but we will see how it goes. So you guys get the gist.
Yes.
what we're doing?
Okay.
All
Yep.
right. So the first pair of games that you guys need to tell me which has the higher critic score, according to Metacritic, Paw Patrol World or Bluey, the video game.
Who goes first?
I guess we can alternate. We'll let Kevin go first.
Okay.
I'm kind of torn in this one. I've played the Bluey game.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it was pretty well received, I think, even though I don't really like the game.
Just based on the fact that people love Bluey.
I mean, yeah, everyone loves Bluey as a show, and it just kind of felt like bonus episodes. But I also heard that the Paw Patrol game, and I don't know if it's the same game because I don't remember the full title, and I never played that one.
Yeah, this is Paw Patrol World. I guess I'll give you both a hint because Dylan, it's probably not the one you're thinking of, and
It's
it
not
is
the one I saw your daughter playing.
No, it is like
Okay.
the most recent Paw Patrol game
Okay.
to come out. Like I think it came out last year.
Okay.
Okay, that's tough because I think I've heard good things about both of them. I would say Paw Patrol though.
Okay, Paw Patrol.
I'm gonna go Bluey just because Bluey is the only one that I've seen be played, and based on the Paw Patrol game that I saw your daughter playing, like it looked like a straight like 2 out of 10, and so like even if this new Paw Patrol game is better, I don't know that it would be as good as the Bluey game. Although I also don't know how good the Bluey game is. So I just have heard of Bluey.
Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay, which is the game that you've seen my daughter play that also straight up just has a typo in the title on Game Pass.
That's how you know.
Yeah, that game I would not really recommend, but apparently Paw Patrol World is sitting at a 79
Wow.
on Metacritic. So
That's
you're right,
impressive.
Kevin. People
Oh,
seem
wow.
to like this one. So I'm kind of curious now. I may have to go look into it a little deeper because Bluey the video game could not live up to the love that people have for the show. It's sitting at 56.
Oh wow! I know it had a lot of bugs in it.
Oh, okay,
is
maybe.
what I heard. I don't know if that goes into that score. So
I think people were surprised by how short it was too.
yeah, I mean it was I think because I bought that game for my son because he loves Bluey. I think it was like a $30 or $40 game, and it's pretty short.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's beat it, and like I'm trying to make sure because he did it in like just a couple hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so Paw Patrol is still reigning supreme
Wow.
All right.
over Bluey. The next pair of games I have for you, Peppa Pig World Adventures or Sonic Dream Team. And for a little context, Sonic Dream Team is the Apple Arcade exclusive.
Oh. That makes it more complicated. I was ready to just be like, it's a Sonic game. So clearly I'm going to go with Peppa Pig. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of the Apple Arcade stuff that's like specifically developed for Apple Arcade, I've always heard good things about. But I still have an anti-Sonic bias, so I'm going to go with Peppa Pig. So
Okay. Kevin, how about you?
I think I would go. I guess I'll go with Sonic on this one.
Okay, so Sonic Dream Team sitting at a 75.
wow. It's the best rated Sonic game in like 10 years.
It's inaccurate, but I appreciate the dig. You know, they're putting Shadow in Sonic Generations, and I'm actually pretty excited about that. Peppa Pig World Adventures, 72.
Ooh, that's
Okay.
close. It was
That
close.
Those
That's
were close,
close.
but Sonic just
Eked it
barely eking out ahead.
Yes. Well, he is pretty fast, you know.
He is,
so.
yes. Even on the iPhone. Next couple of games I've got for you. We've got Mario Tennis Aces and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2.
Mm.
And we're going to let Kevin start this time.
No, I don't think I heard anyone say anything about either one of these games.
Yeah, Mario Tennis Aces was like early Switch, and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, I think, like just came out, and yeah, nobody talked about it. But I feel like it got a nod at the Game Awards, which surprised me.
Yeah, it was like in fighting game or family game. Or
But also,
something.
yeah, the people who vote on the Game Awards have no idea what a fighting game is because they put Sifu in there. So
That's
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine Mario would do better, but so I'm going to go with Mario Tennis.
okay, Dylan.
Now, this Nickelodeon game, That's the one that you and I played, right? And you
It's
were
the
like
sequel to the one you and I
like
played.
I was like
yes.
Stu Pickles, and you were like somebody else who was
I
like
was like
a
Toph from
tertiary
Avatar.
character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then like I thought that
Jimmy
game was
Neutron's dad.
Yeah, I thought that game was absolutely horrible, and then we looked it up and it was like a 9 out of 10 or something like that. So I'm gonna say that maybe they just kept that ball rolling, and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is like 2 is beloved in the fighting game community. Maybe, I don't know.
I have no idea how the fighting game community feels about it, but it's sitting at a 77 on Metacritic.
Okay.
Whereas Mario Tennis Aces is a 75.
Oh,
Wow. 75 for a Mario game. That's surprising.
The Mario sports games have not done super well on Switch. They're all kind of in that like 70s range. Mostly, I think, because of lack of content and like people feel like there's just not enough there. But all right, Dylan, is that you finally getting on the board?
That was my first point on the board.
All right. Kevin, don't let him pass you up here. We've got Mario Party Superstars and Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Is Superstars the one where they went back to like the older games?
Yeah.
I feel like I remember that one getting some good reviews. I think. Cause yeah, I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay. And Kevin?
At first, I was thinking Mario Superstars until you said the title of the next one. I definitely think it's Lego Skywalker Saga.
So Mario Party Superstars sitting at an 80.
Okay, respectable.
Highest score so far.
Okay.
Until Lego Star Wars comes in at an 82.
Oh man.
I didn't think it was going to be that close, but I did. I mean, I know Lego Star Wars was big on. It stayed on like the top 10 selling video games for a little while.
Yeah.
Yes, which is a good metric for like how successful a game is, but like Call of Duty does that, and the last one is probably sitting at like a 50 on Metacritic. So sometimes the critics and the gamers who are spending their money don't line up. But yes, your gut was right on this one, Kevin.
Because I feel like the only thing I remember hearing about Skywalker Saga was like from you talking about how they changed the like split screen so that it was like weird and like
it is
not fun,
vertical and locked. So. Yeah, and like I bought it to play with my wife, and it just you lose so much of the visuals when you're in split screen, because it's not horizontal, and they didn't do the like blended thing that they were doing in a lot of the like Marvel games and stuff. It just stays vertical, and it was like we played one night and then didn't really go back to it. And I feel like if they would address that, it would. I mean, I guess that's not most of their market, because the game did pretty well. But all right, this is the last one I've got for you. So I'm pretty sure that Kevin's
this is just for like the honor of not
but we'll see.
Getting pretty shut out here. So
we'll see if Dylan can slightly redeem himself here between Pokemon Scarlet.
Nope, not that one.
And Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway.
Also, okay. This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. As like a Pokemon game. Well, I don't know, because now I guess it's Kevin's turn to. Yeah,
he starts.
But I know the Pokemon games always get like a very high score, even though it's been the same game for like 3 or 4 years or generations.
Yeah, and I don't know Metacritic scores that well. I don't follow them that closely, so I'm kind of just going off of what I feel was the most successful. And I feel like a lot of Nickelodeon games aren't that successful, and I was kind of waiting for you to say something better than Pokemon Scarlet. And I would probably have to go that way, even though I know as far as Pokemon games go, it wasn't that well received. But I'll go with Pokemon Scarlet.
I'm going to do a Hail Mary here and just hope that this Nickelodeon kart racer I've never heard of somehow is like sitting at a 95 or something like that.
So Pokemon Scarlet is sitting at a 72.
Wow, for a Pokemon game?
Yeah.
Dang.
Is kind of it was a big deal how poorly that game ran. I think that got it dinged a lot, were some of the technical issues.
Which, like, you could have maybe sort of believed, and then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and it's like, yeah, no, you can make it run on Switch. Sorry, guys.
Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway, 70.
That feels right for a game named Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway.
Close.
So
close, but not quite. Kevin, you absolutely killed it.
Yes, congratulations.
This
There's
game.
definitely some luck involved, but I'm curious, does Pokemon Violet have a different score than Scarlet, or
good question.
Let's see.
It's like somebody got like, well, this is my starter. So
almost the same game. I'm just curious if they're different.
Pokemon Violet actually has a 71. So
so it's worse.
Got 1 point. Yeah.
Wow.
So if you don't know which game to get Scarlet.
Get Scarlet. Yeah,
I have no idea. The DLCs also, just at quick glance here, getting pretty, like one of them's got a 70, one of them's got a 65. So those got hit pretty hard there. Pokemon Black and White though, 87. People like those ones.
That's one of the reasons Palworld has taken off, is because everybody's just itching for like a Pokemon game that changes it up a little bit.
Well, congratulations, Kevin. You are the champion for this episode's game. Now it is the part of the show where I want you to plug all your stuff. I want you to let everybody know where they can follow you, where they can find you, all that great stuff. I'm going to have links in the episode description. I'm going to get all that from you for sure. But for just people listening who are curious, let everybody know where they can find the Gamer Parents Podcast.
Yeah, so you can find us on your favorite podcast streaming platform. We're on all the major ones, and most of the ones that I'm aware of, at least. Also, we have a YouTube channel where we post our episodes as well, which is just under Gamer Parents Podcast. And then obviously on Twitch at twitch.tv/GamerParentsPod. And then I think where we first ran into each other, Twitter or X, at Gamer Parents Pod. So we're over there. I'm fairly active on there as well. But that's kind of the places people can find us. Then of course our Discord server as well. It's where we like to hang out with people, other gamer parents. But that's it.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, and like I said, all of the links for that will be in the description and on our website. So definitely go check out the Gamer Parents Podcasts. I'm sure all of our listeners have heard me talk about, being a gamer parent here and there on our show. So if that is the like branch of our content that you enjoy, you can get way more of it over there, the Gamer Parents Podcast. So thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, it was fun to meet you, fun to talk with you, get to know you a little bit, chit chat about content, chit chat about games. So I always appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely have to hit you up whenever I finally play Forspoken. And
let me know what you think about it, because I'm hoping I'm not the only one out there that enjoys that game.
No, I'm sure there will be dozens of us. But,
dozens.
That is it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Thanks. Big shout out again to Kevin for coming on. And we will catch you all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Friendly Neighborhood Gamers podcast. If so, we would greatly appreciate your help in growing the show and the community by giving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other podcasting app that allows it.
We also have some great videos on our YouTube channel, including reviews, rankings, and other topics. We would really appreciate you checking it out. And if you want to keep up with everything going on in the neighborhood, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and feel free to jump in our Discord server.
We hope to see you there. Links for everything are in the podcast description. Thanks again for listening, and remember, stay friendly, gamers.